Welcome back to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Shawcross, and welcome back to another question and answer time video. I don't really have a official name for these type of videos, but this is a video where I read some of your guys' emails and comments and answer any questions you might have and respond to any statements that you might have. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Maybe some of you who have asked questions might show up on this list. And if you do, well, that's awesome. Make sure to leave, if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comment section below. And I also have a website where you can send a private email if you want to talk about something a little, like if you want to say, hey, I have this piano, come review it, here's my address. You can do that through that email. So let's get started here. The first thing I wanted to talk about were some comments on a recent video I did, which was the video where I played 3 world-class pianos in a single room. I was invited out to my friend's house again and to do a 3-way comparison between a Bosendorfer 290, a Fazioli F308, and a new Steinway D. It's a very long video, but it's a very interesting video. If you haven't seen it, you might like checking it out after you watch this one. But one thing about that particular room is that it does admittedly have some 1970s wood paneling on the walls. And this apparently confuses people, or they just don't like it, and so many people have left comments on both that recent 3-way comparison and other videos I've done at his house in the past. Now, if you notice something interesting in the background of a video or just anything in general and you want to politely talk about it, that 70s wood paneling, that is totally fine. But if you want to be rude and disrespectful and make sarcastic comments about something, whether it's that wood paneling or anything else in general, that's not going to be really accepted. Now, there is actually a reason that wood paneling is there, and that's because it has a really good sounds to it. In Studio B here at Milan Recording Studios, where I have some percussive instruments like a marimba and a vibraphone and a few other things like that, and I'm working on building my collection as we speak, I have wood paneling in that room, and that adds reverb to the room. Even though there's carpet on the floor, the wood paneling adds reverb, and it gives the marimba a really nice full sound, as it does the vibraphone and really any instrument you play up. There's also a piano and a harpsichord and cool things in that room. So that is a reason that wood paneling is found in recording studios. If you look at many pictures of large world-class recording studios, you will oftentimes see a large room that often will have wood paneling on the walls, often with different shapes and designs to help absorb sound and reflect sound in different ways. Oftentimes a wood floor. Wood is a really great material used in a musical setting, and that's why a lot of recording studios will have wood paneling on the walls. Oftentimes it's a more modern design than the wood paneling seen in the room of his house, but it still has the same function. It still provides a very nice sound, and that particular room has a great sound for pianos. So that's why it's there, and I just wanted to address that in this video because a lot of people did leave comments about it, and I just wanted to talk about it. If you leave negative, mean, nasty comments on any video, your comments won't be seen anywhere else on the channel. So now let me get into some of the things I have here on my screen, and the first one here is from a guy who lives in the Philippines. He sent me a relatively long email, so I'm going to sort through it as quickly as possible and talk about some of the important points. One of them that he wants to know about is he wants to know what I think of Wessel, nickel, and gross carbon fiber actions. Those are found in Mason & Hamlin double Bs, and that's what his email was mostly about. He's curious about my opinions of double Bs, and one of his specific questions is, what do I think of the Wessel nickel and gross action? Well, I found actually a large variance in Wessel nickel and gross actions. When they're set up well, they are really great actions. They are smooth, they respond very well, and they're a dream to play on. When they're not set up well, like really any piano action will be, they're not as fun to play on. They can be clunky and not very responsive. So if a Wessel nickel and gross action is set up very well, it can be a fantastic action. I've run across a number of phenomenal pianos using these actions, and when they're set up well, they're wonderful to play. However, there is at least one small problem with those actions, and that is, again, involving them not being set up correctly. Sometimes even out of the factory, the little pins that are in the action can sometimes come loose, and that can cause a clicking sound. All that needs to be done there is that old pin needs to be slid out and a new pin needs to be put in, and that will resolve the issue. It's a very easy fix, and if you're ever in a Mason & Hamlin store, especially one that has a number of new Mason & Hamlins, take a look on the floor and you might see small little metal pins, and that would be from the repinning procedure. Sometimes there'll be 1 or 2, maybe 3 notes on a brand new Mason & Hamlin that will do that clicking sound, so all that needs to be done is have those notes repinned, and that should fix the problem. One time I was at the NAMM show, I think it was 2016, I think it was the first NAMM show I went to. Mason & Hamlin had a booth there, and on one of their pianos when I was playing it, I noticed that one of the notes I think was kind of held down a little bit like this, and I was like, that's not good, so I mentioned to one of the people at the booth. They slid the action out, repinned it, put it back in, and it was all good to go. So it was a really, really quick, easy procedure. I was actually amazed at how quickly it took. It just slid the action out, repinned something, and put it back in. So it was a really easy fix, even though that note actually, I think at the time, wasn't working properly. Very easy fix, and so those actions do seem to be easy to work on. So again, long story, I know, but basically the Wessel, Nickel, and Gross actions, when they're prepped well, they can be very, very good. So what else does he talk about? He mentions that he tried a Shigeru SK6, but didn't find the bass to be as powerful as he'd like. The SK line of pianos, which if you don't know, is Kawai's Shigeru Kawai line of pianos. Those can be very nice, but the 2 models out of that range that I would really only be able to truly recommend would be the SK7 and the SKEX. Both of those are very nice pianos. They have a warm, rich sound, so if that's what you're going for, then those might be the very piano for you. If you're looking for a more bright, clean, clear sound, those definitely would not work for you. They are a very fuzzy sounding piano, very warm, very rich, very pleasing to listen to. The smaller models, the SK6 and below, I think there's an SK2 and an SK3, might be an SK5 too, I can't really remember. The smaller models are a little bit less consistent. I've played on several SK7s and several SKEXs, and really all of them have been nice, but with the SK2s and 3s and 5s and 6s, those can be a little bit hit or miss. None of them have been truly terrible, but some of them haven't been quite as good as you'd expect from such a premier line of pianos that is Shigeru Kawai, and the SK6 probably is pretty good, but again, I can't truly recommend them as heavily as I could an SK7 or an SKEX. Something else he talks about that I think is rather interesting here is that he says he tried a Yamaha C7X and he found it nice but not as powerful as some Mason Hamlin double B videos. That's really interesting because I've played a few Yamaha C7 pianos and C7Xs, and I found that the bass on those has been very, very powerful. I think I did a video on an S7X, and that was an extremely powerful sounding piano. I was amazed at how much sound I could get out of a roughly 7-foot piano. So that is an interesting point that he made in this thing, and I think that's about everything that I wanted to talk about in that. So just briefly, the Mason Hamlin double Bs. But before I move on, I've spent a lot of time on this, but I did want to talk about a funny story involving Mason and Hamlins. If you've been following my channel for a while, you might have noticed that a few months ago I posted some videos about new Mason and Hamlins, and then you also might have noticed, if you had gone back to look for them, that they had all seemingly disappeared. Well, what happened here was someone actually invited me to their store where they had Mason and Hamlin pianos. They had a wonderful CC, they had a really good double B, and they had an awesome Mason and Hamlin Model 50. When I was playing the Mason and Hamlin Model 50, it had recently come to the store, hadn't really been prepped, and as I mentioned earlier, there were a few notes that were clicking, that I think they were up in the high treble, roughly this range, and when I played my test piece, which is in that range, I think it might have been that G right here, it was clicking quite loudly, and my recording setup picked it up. Apparently what happened is people saw that video, decided to go into his store, and then mentioned, hey, I saw this video of this piano, but I heard clicking up here. I'm assuming that's what happened. Because sometime after the video was posted, he contacted me and discussed this and seems to think that that clicking sound wasn't coming from the piano, but was somehow being generated by my recording system, which is rather interesting. So to make him happy and so that more people wouldn't come into his store complaining about the piano, I decided to remove that video, as well as any others from his store, because I didn't want other people coming in and bothering him about problems they may have heard in my video. However, with that Mason Hamlin 50, it definitely was the piano. As I mentioned, it was most likely a very simple fix of repinning that particular key. I think there were a couple others that were doing it not quite as loud. So it was an issue with the piano. It had recently come into the store. It wasn't the fault of my recording equipment, it was the piano itself, but that's just a funny story about Mason and Hamlin pianos. All right, let's move on to the next comment, which is from a man named Victor. He says, I am receiving a C. Bachstein D282 concert grand on Saturday, 9/21/2019. You are welcome to come and play it and visit my house. I have watched and enjoyed a number of your videos and wish you all the best. Victor. So first of all, Victor, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you enjoy my videos, and I totally want to come out and visit that D292. C. Bechsteins are so rare here in the United States. It's absolutely unreal. I do know of someone, I believe in Southern California, who may be getting a C. Bechstein Contra Grand as well sometime in the future, and if I'm ever up in your area of the United States, I will definitely drop by and check out your piano, because that sounds really awesome. I also wanted to mention that I will be going on a road trip soon. I will be traveling the country as I've done in the past, and this one's going to be, I'm going to be visiting some states I've never been to. I'm first going to be going to Wisconsin. I think I messed up that sentence, but I'm going to be going to Wisconsin to check out a really cool recording studio where they have, among other awesome things, they have a really old piano from 1823. It's a John Broadwood, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because that's one of the pianos that Beethoven had. Beethoven bought his in 1817. This one's from 1823, so it's almost like a piano that Beethoven would have played on, which is really, really cool. Obviously, I will be playing some Beethoven on that piano, as well as some other things. And they also have some other cool things at that studio as well. They've got a Rhodes, they've got a Whirly, they have a Clavinet D6. I've never played one before, so that'll be fun. They also have a theremin. Yes, I'm going to try to play it if he lets me. It probably won't come out good, but I'm going to try. And he's also got some other cool things like a reed organ and some Hammond instruments and stuff like that. So if he lets me do videos and all that, that will be awesome. And I think that's going to come out cool. After that, we're going to South Dakota to go pick up some orchestral chimes and visit my friends at Taylor Music, who I think have some other cool instruments there that they might be able to let me play as well. I bought my marimba, my Musser M500, through Taylor Music, and I have now bought a set of vintage Deegan orchestral chimes from them. So I'm going to be doing some videos of those as well, probably both at their shop and in my studio. Maybe not at their shop, they might already have it boxed up for me, I'm not really sure, but I will definitely do a video on that somewhere, sometime in the future as well. Then after that, I'm heading out to the West Coast. I'm going to be probably visiting my friends at DC Pianos in Berkeley, and then I might also head up north to Portland to go check out Classic Pianos, one of the largest piano stores I've ever been in, and the owner of that store, Fred, is one of the friendliest people I've met in the piano industry. So that will be really fun as well. Hopefully there'll be lots of great videos that will come out of that trip, but unfortunately I will not be in Victor's area in this particular trip, so it will have to wait for a later time, but I'm definitely interested in checking that out, Victor. All right, this next one here didn't actually come from a follower of mine who sent me an email, not the typical ones who watch my videos. Someone here from a group called Hard Quiz, and my Australian fans might know what that is. I don't know how popular it is over there, but they said, it's a long one, I'm just going to read you certain parts of it. They said, "Hi James, I'm getting in contact on behalf of the producers of Hard Quiz. We are a lighthearted quiz show broadcast on the ABC in Australia, blah blah blah, featuring Tom Gleason as host and 4 different contestants, blah blah blah. One of our contestants for a forthcoming episode has nominated the specialty topic of electronic organs." That is a very specialty topic. "And we'd love to use a snippet of the following video to accompany a question." Now that initially sounds awesome, doesn't it? Some TV show in Australia wants to use one of my video clips in their thing, and initially I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome, yes, I'd love to do that. But then I read some more and it starts to not get so good. "We are just hoping to use 738 to 748, 10 seconds of the video, to show the difference in sound between the slow and fast spinning speeds on the Leslie." And then they say here, "If so, we would like to request your permission to use this clip on the Hard Quiz," and here's where things get weird. "As described above, on a non-exclusive, irrevocable, in all media, worldwide, for a period of 10 years, in connection with the program and the promotion of same from the first broadcast of the episode." No. That's not happening. So, yeah, that's definitely not going to be happening. I'm not going to be giving my rights away to, I guess, would it be just the 10 seconds of the video, or would it be the full thing? I don't know. I guess it would just be the 10 seconds. But regardless, I'm not going to be giving away my rights for 10 years on a video for just some little quiz show in Australia. That doesn't really sound like it would be worth my time, and I'm not going to be giving my rights to anything away to anybody. So I did want to mention that because I thought that was really interesting that's a thing. I have heard that lots of these TV shows like American Idol and all those have really scummy policies, and this probably isn't up there with some of those, but it is very strange, very odd. Why do they even need to do that? I mean, if they didn't have any of that, and it's just, hey, can we borrow your clip? I probably would have said, yeah, sure, credit me in the video, and yeah, it's all good. But because it's non-exclusive, irrevocable for a period of 10 years, no, it's definitely not going to be happening. So the final thing that I wanted to talk about here on this list would be from a guy named Rick, who had some questions on what speakers to use for keyboards. So he says, finally, I'm going to be checking out a Roland amp, but do you think using a pair of quality monitors, he then mentions a Yamaha HS series and KRKRPs, is more desirable than a single performance amp to get the most natural piano sound from a keyboard? Now, there are some theoretical advantages to having monitors on either side. If you have a keyboard that has the binaural thing where you play the bass end and it comes through the left speaker, and you play the treble and it comes through the right speaker, technically, theoretically, that might provide a slightly more immersive sound. And I've played a Yamaha piano that had the silent system, and when you put the headphones on, it's binaural, and it actually just sounds like you're playing the real piano. It's wild. But I've not had great experiences with those type of monitors in the past. I found that they have a very small, tinny sound. They don't get to go up as loud as a real amp, which in a home setting isn't really that necessary. But I found that Roland amplifiers, like actual, bass and keyboard amps, do a fantastic job of replicating the keyboard's sound. I use here in the studio a Roland KC350. That model has now been discontinued. You can still find them used online, though. It's been replaced by the KC400, which, from what I've been able to tell, is the exact same thing. I don't even know why they discontinued the line, but the KC400 seems to be the exact same thing, seems to have an excellent sound to it as well, and they're also not super expensive either, and for the size of the amp you're getting and for the price you're paying, you do get quite a nice sound experience. Smaller models aren't as good. I used to have a 150 that had a lot of hiss and didn't sound as good, but the 350 or the 400 is a very nice amp. I use them all the time here in the studio, and I have not been disappointed at all. So I personally strongly recommend a keyboard amp over monitor speakers. Again, maybe there is a theoretical advantage to them, and they are generally pretty small. Like this, the ones I've seen are like this big. He might be talking about really big ones, which might be better, I'm not sure. But the ones I've come across haven't been very good, and over those, I would definitely recommend a keyboard amp. So I think that is everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like on this video. And if you have any questions for me, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I did want to mention one other thing, though, a fun event that may be coming up in the future. The 2019 NAMM show, as you might know, is going to be in this upcoming January. And around that time, recently, I have been invited to a concert that will be happening in that area around that time. And not only have I been invited to a concert from a very well-known group of musicians, I've also been invited to come backstage and actually meet them, which is absolutely amazing. I really hope that happens, and I really hope I'll be able to get some videos or at least pictures with them. And if I do, I will definitely post that somewhere on my channel. So that's still up in the air, but if everything works good on their end, I definitely want to go check that out. So that is one other thing that I wanted to mention. I should have mentioned that in my road trip thing, but it's going to be a separate event. So that is going to be awesome. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, again, go ahead and leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and maybe you'll see them in an upcoming video. If you do that, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.